So this summer that'll come out. We'll also finish editing our doc,
Mm-hmm.
an American weightlifting story. We want to put that out. And once all that's out, it's going to be time. Oh, you hear the AC unit?
Yeah, that's fine.
Then it's going to be time to start talking about the future. And the first big project we have for the future is our studio.
That's right. We are building a studio. I'm super jazzed about it too.
I have no words.
Yeah. So here's the story. Um, my parents have some land that they inherited, and so then I therefore inherited. And my wife is just, she wants to build a house. She wants to build a house. She wants to build a house. Now's the time to build a house. And then, of course, the economy's not great right now, especially for lumber, um, in our area anyway. It's just insane. It's literally 300% more than it would have been 6 months ago to build a house.
That sounds right.
So we're not in like, we're at a point where we really want to build a house. And I said, well, can I build a shop? And she said, sure, yeah, you can build a shop. And I said, wait, really? I can build a shop when we build it? She's like, yeah, might as well just do it all at the same time. Okay.
And that's how he got her.
and then see, that's how you get it. So then I said, well, what if I build a studio? And she says, well, how big? I don't know, 3,000,
Mumble just a little bit louder, just a little bit louder.
And she goes, and so she looks at it and she says, yeah, okay, that's fine. Oh, really? Okay, and so I kind of showed her some layouts, like this is kind of what I want to do with it, and this is what I want to happen. And she'll fight back on a few other things, but then I think, you know, so I eventually got now I have this very large studio mapped out, and she's given me a budget that I can work with, and I'm thinking, oh, I can do a lot with this.
Now, you also slow rolled all this information to me.
Yeah.
Because what you told me was, okay, so we're going to build a studio onto a standalone garage / workshop.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So I start looking up.
But I had to slow roll all this to her too. Like
You're slow rolling both of us, I guess.
This is months and months of effort here.
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't just happen.
Yeah. So I do a quick search on Pinterest.
Yeah.
And I see a floor layout for like a standalone garage, and it's like 25 by 25. I'm like, okay, that's the base. Now I'm going to build off of that, right? It's like, okay. And so I draw something up that I think has everything we want. A studio space, like a recording booth, a control / editing, control room / editing bay, a storage locker,
a theater, a viewing room.
Well, we got to that. We got to that eventually. But I was like, a little space, kind of like green room space, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you start suggesting all these extra things, like, well, why don't we add a kitchen? Why don't we add all these other things? I'm like, oh, okay.
A kitchenette.
This is gonna get kind of pricey. And then you told me the budget.
Yeah.
And then I started feeling a lot better about this. Because I'm like, you can actually get a lot for that budget.
Yeah.
Now, if we're in California,
no, not at all.
No, we're in Arizona where things do not cost
a ton.
Crazy prices.
Yeah. So now the situation with the economy is as it is that it is nearly impossible, not impossible, but it is not practical to build a house of the square footage that we want to build right now, or in the style that we want to build right now. So, I said, well, what if we do the building out of steel? Steel prices are still relatively low right now. So, and I've been looking at packs, and the nice thing about those is they, the market doesn't inflate on them a ton when prices go up because they sit on the shelf a little bit longer than like framing packs do. They have a shelf life. So I started pricing some of those out. And next thing you know, my wife's excited about it and she wants to, play with the studio. My wife's also a photographer. So
and this is absolutely, it's going to be a photographer's dream.
Yeah.
A sound recordist's dream, a filmmaker's dream. Like we're building for all this utility.
Yeah.
She can absolutely have fantastic shoots in this location.
And But with all this happening, I said, well, like, what if we got the shop up? And she's like, yeah, and she thinks this is a great idea. So don't
I'm
anybody
sorry to
tell
cut you
her.
off.
Yeah,
This reminds me of my big fat Greek wedding,
yeah.
where they're talking about how you know the reference, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The what is it?
The
The
man
man
is
is
the
the
head of
head,
the
but the woman is
house.
the neck,
Yeah, yeah,
and the woman can turn the man's head. Something to the effect of the women are actually
yeah,
controlling it, right?
yeah. Vice versa.
Yeah,
It's 2020, 2021, whatever. So,
yeah.
so, but the stinker is right now it's built on a field, and we didn't quite make the season, and I wanted to push the property back as far back. I wanted to push the building back as far back on the property as possible, mostly for sound to get it away from the road, and just excuse me, to get it away from the road. And anyway, harvest season is October, so I'm hoping to have plans done by then. I'm looking at a couple of steel companies to help me design the building and everything that we're gonna do. I'll be acting as the contractor. I have a long history in building houses. Unfortunately, so I'll be hiring out a lot of the work and doing a lot of it myself as well. But yeah, I figure by early 2022 we will have Carpe and Zen Studios, like a legit studio. Someplace I can go and edit. Someplace Jacob can come and edit. Someplace we can do screenings for the movies that we are
Yes. Should
working
we should
on.
we list everything that's going to be in this
Yeah,
this the building? I don't
yeah,
I don't know. So, I mean, obviously some things are up in the air, but we're going to have uh, a Studio A space,
yeah.
which is the sound stage,
Mm,
big enough for a set.
hmm
And what I've drawn up is like 25 by 25, but I don't know what your plans are.
I think we're gonna go just a little bit bigger. We're gonna have like a kind of a gamble type barn onto the side. So we'll have like a Studio A and a Studio B,
Yeah.
and they'll be both fairly large spaces to work with. Um,
And they'll be able to attach to the garage workshop,
hmm
so you can build things in the workshop and then bring it into the studio space.
Right. So we'll and
My
that'll be
dad was
all.
suggesting like a barn door
Yeah.
instead of like the rolling door,
hmm
whatever. Anyway, go ahead.
So and anyway, that'll be built on. So we'll have a shop there, and obviously like a garage for some cars and everything, but also hopefully with access to the stage, so we can bring things into it. Um, and then another thing that was really important to me was actually to have a sound booth, but not just a tiny sound booth, but something that I could get a band in. Because there's
Right.
actually a lot of local bands here and a lot of local musicians that I know I could entice to come down and record, you know?
There's very little recording space.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned there's someone who has a basement,
hmm
and then there's the radio stations.
hmm
That's it.
But one thing we're not short
The
on,
radio stations do not have space for a band to
yeah,
record.
one thing we're not short on is audio engineers. There happens to be a lot of audio engineers that live here, and they're pretty good. You know, like there's a girl that I went to school with. I worked with her up until recently. She just took another job someplace else, but that's her career. She's not necessarily well. That's kind of her side hustle, right? She's an audio engineer. She works for the radio stations. You hear her on the radio all the time. And she records and mixes her own sound. And I'm like, hey, you want to come down? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So
So we want to have a space that one we can, I mean, we can podcast in,
mhm.
right?
We can do
Um,
voiceovers in there. We can
but
do,
but a
yeah,
band can come in and record, and I think that's going to be fantastic
yeah,
opportunity, and a way to actually recoup
yeah.
some of the expense of the studio.
And like, and then I was talking to, well, some other things it's gonna have. Like, we're gonna have that Studio A space and that Studio B space, and then we'll have a screening room, which
This
is, yeah,
I really like this idea.
yeah, which is really important to me. For one, I want to be able to screen our movies, right?
And I mean, this is you know this probably going to be, I don't know, half the size of this room, the
Uh,
same length,
yeah,
but maybe half the
probably the
width.
same length, but probably slightly narrower.
Enough room for a couple of rows of couches.
Mm-hmm.
Not a a big event space, but
Yeah.
big enough to screen a movie
Yeah. We'll
with
get,
people.
we'll have some people over, and we can screen movies, and we can sit down in a theater type setting and hear the sound as we're intending it to sound like.
Yeah.
Um, and then beyond that, we're going to have an editing room as well, which is just kind of I'm envisioning it as a dark creative space, you know, and you go in and have you ever seen those? It's it. So a few years ago, it was really big. They would put a Trueform runner inside of a Connex box, no light inside, and you would get on the Trueform runner, and they would leave you in there for like 6 hours or 12 hours or whatever, and you had to see how far you'd run.
Weird.
So you're in this deprivation, and you
So
had to
you
see.
you have no way
Yeah,
to
to no way to know. And
oh wow.
I did one, and they weren't going to tell you how long they were going to leave you in there, right? So, and I kind of kept my eye on it. It was like an
That's
event.
a weird mental
Yeah,
exercise.
it was kind of it was in an event, and I was watching. They weren't leaving anybody in there longer than 45 minutes, right? Which is a significant amount of time to run in pitch blackness. So I went in there. I
Man.
think they left me in there for something like 32 minutes. I ran the equivalent of a 5K or whatever, which
Yeah.
was,
Okay. Yeah.
pretty close to my pace on a true form runner at the time. So, but yeah, it was a really weird mental exercise. And that, for some reason, is how I see the editing room. Like, obviously, it's not going to be, but it's just like a sound, like a deprivation room where you just have the edit. You know,
Yeah.
you have your computer, you have like your whatever to eat. There's going to be a kitchenette, with,
Yeah, I mean like a kitchen
yeah,
microwave, coffee maker,
microwave,
whatever.
something, something where you can go like a fridge, a mini fridge. You can go in there. You can get your
So we can have kind of a green room for
yeah,
when people come in and shoot.
right. And then you get to go in there and just create. There'll be a couch in the back for the director to be there, or like a
Mm-hmm.
cot or something like
Yep.
that. And then hopefully another, like we can expand a little bit and have a place for like a sound recordist or somebody who's working on sound to be in there. I just like I have all
Yeah,
these
so a
visions.
control room slash editing bay,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
When you think about the needs for each of these different kinds of environments, like their needs are very similar
yeah,
technically,
right.
which is why we're trying to design it for multiple purposes.
hmm And from
But
the and we have the opportunity to do it from the ground up.
exactly. Like we don't have to build this into a basement
Yeah.
or anything like that. Literally, it's a big open field.
hmm Yeah.
One of the other ideas was like, well, we want to be able to entice people to come out here.
Right.
So we need a place for people to stay.
Yep.
So we may have
So
one,
yeah.
maybe a couple rooms
Yeah.
where people could actually stay
hmm
inside the space. And so they could come out for a week,
Yeah.
book the place and just, you never have to leave.
Yeah.
You got your studio space, you got your restoring space, your editing space. You can even like preview a cut. Like it's
hmm
all in the same building.
Yeah. So like
You just don't have a stove.
yeah, you could come down and I'll probably add a stove. But
They go to a restaurant
yeah.
somewhere.
I mean, you could come down with your creative team. I see it as an oasis for small creative teams, like these creative teams of 10, 12 people,
Mm-hmm.
right? They come down, they can all kind of crash out together, have their own space, or you can stay in a hotel locally or something like that. But you can just rent the studio space. We can get you an audio engineer, we can get you an editor, we can get you all these things. And I actually pitched this idea to some friends of ours working in the Tucson and the Phoenix area. And they were like, it's fantastic. I pitched it to Vic Rogers.
Oh,
And he was like, dude, if you need me to come down, like hammer nails, I'll drive down there and help.
I love Vic so much.
Yeah.
I don't think he even knows.
Yeah. So it just, a lot of people are really excited about it, and we're really excited about it. Uh, and if, worst comes to worst, I end up with a really big building that I can't do anything with, and maybe I build a gym in there and build cars, or, just store a bunch of junk.
But I mean, this is this is the dream space, and I really think with everything we've planned out, you talk to other people, I think they would agree this is kind of the dream.
Yeah.
This is gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, and it's not all gonna happen at once. You know, like we're gonna have to spend time building the sounds, the audio recording room, right? We're gonna have to spend time building gear up there, and have to get gigs to make it work, and find financing for that kind of stuff in the beginning. You know, we're gonna try to do it as debt free as possible, because that's just my wife is in finance,
Yeah.
and she has like this weird obsession with Dave Ramsey, so whatever. But we're trying to do business as smart as we can, and then hopefully be able to entice as many people as we can. Like I want to get photographers. You know, I want photographers to come. I want small
And there's
filmmakers to
there's
come
so
out.
many in this area. There's essentially one photography space,
Yeah,
and every other photographer they just go on
yeah. They
location.
just go outside.
But what if they could just rent a studio?
Yeah, and I don't even think Holidays is available for rent.
I don't
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
There are several rental places in the Phoenix area, and I've been to a couple of them, and I'm thinking in my mind, I don't think this would be hard to outdo. And I'm not, nothing bad on these rental places, but I'm thinking, like, I could build out this soundstage and just partition it off for 11 different types of photo shoots, right?
Yeah, I mean we've talked about, maybe there's green screen, maybe there's a big psych,
Mm-hmm.
like, and then obviously you start getting some big backdrops and some props.
Right.
You get, the right lights in there, and it's like, boom, this is just
Yeah. So,
ready to go.
yeah, it's gonna be awesome.